So it's great to be a part of a family of churches. Daryl and I, as we said, we're a community church this morning, celebrating the work of Taylor and Lydia there and seeing some others who joined them in that work and just celebrating how amazing it is to see God doing such great work around us. And here in this church, we also want to celebrate the fact that we get to be a part of a team. And that's what we've been talking about, the opportunities to connect together, to grow together, to join this team. We even jokingly said, some of you have been dating this church for a long time, and now it's time to get married, like to make it serious, right? And some of you have taken that charge, and you've joined teams, and you've seen what it's like to be a part of our team. And we want to encourage others to do that as well. We're going to have a ministry fair coming up in early February 18th, where you can learn more about the teams. But we've been talking a lot about the culture that we want to create in the church and within the teams. And we talked about how this is represented by the word team, each letter representing one of our values. So in cheerleader pep rally style, we're going to spell out team, right? So everybody give me a T. T. That was so lame. That sounds like T stands for trying, but not getting there. Give me a T. Give me an E. Give me an A. Give me an M. What does it spell? What are we becoming? What are we joining? Exactly right. And that first E of team stands for time with God. And we talked about ways that we do that. We're challenging you all in this new year to spend more time with God. We talked about that we do that by really engaging the Holy Spirit. We've put out a Bible plan in the YouVersion app that you can join us. There are over 60 of us in our group reading together, and it's not too late to join it. We'll talk more at the end. And we're praying together. I was a part of the online prayer gathering last night where we talked about praying together and silence and listening and meditating on Scripture. It was really wonderful. We talked about fasting, things that we might be giving up, reclaiming or taking out of our life, but all of that to engage in our time with God, because Jesus promised us, as we looked in John, that if we remain connected to the vine, said, I'm the vine and you are the branches. If you remain in me, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing, right? So we challenged ourselves to say, we need to spend more time with God in this year. That's what our team is wanting for us. And then last week, Matthias spoke to you about the E for empowering. That we want to train other people to do what we do. We want to train those who are around us. And Jesus said, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. In other words, follow me and I will teach you how to reach out to others, invite them into this mission. I keep saying to our leaders, it is not a good thing if you are irreplaceable. Because it means that somewhere along the way, you haven't trained other people. You haven't equipped people. You haven't built a team around you. I think it's wonderful that we have some really great communicators and teachers. Last weekend, I was away at a men's retreat, and Lucas spoke. You've heard Samuel speak. You've heard Taylor and Lydia speak. You've heard others in our congregation bring God's word because we have a team. We have a team of people teaching, and we want you to be on that team. And when we're equipping people, it means that we're inviting you to see how we do things so that we can hand things off. So if people in our leadership team approach you and say, hey, I want you on my team. Can I show you how to do this or how to be a part of that? We want our answer to be yes. Because life happens. Sometimes people move, or sometimes they're sick, or sometimes they have other things going on. We want to empower those who are around us, right? So today we look at the A of team. Anyone remember what it stands for? Authentic. What does it mean to really be authentic? Well, it means that we share our struggles, that we're honest, but that we also care about the struggles of other people. that we share with other people, right? And we're going to look at this passage in 2 Corinthians here in just a moment. We'll look at the full context, but basically it's Paul saying, my power is greatest when you are weak. In other words, this is God saying this to Paul about this thorn in the flesh, something he struggled with. We're going to talk more about that in a moment. I found a definition for authentic this week because I was like, what does this look like? What does it really mean to be authentic? And listen to this definition. It says that being authentic is living your life according to your own values and goals rather than those of other people. Put simply, authenticity means you're true to your own personality, values, spirit, regardless of the pressure that you're under to act otherwise. Think about that you're true to your values. That's why we're talking about these team values. And part of that is we want to be authentic. So let's look at what it means to really be authentic. We were challenged last weekend. As I said, there were some of us who were away, Raphael and his sons Aaron and Enzo, and we took along Sebastian, and David met us there. And the theme of the retreat, you see a few fun pictures. Yes, we did some snowboarding and skiing and ate some great fondue, for sure. But the speaker challenged us to be the men that God is calling us to be. In other words, to truly be authentic, to stop acting like the world and stop chasing the things of the world, stop pretending to be the men of the world, and instead to be the men of God that God's calling us to be. So we came off of that whole weekend hearing these amazing sermons and sharing with other men who were there about what it means to be authentic, what it means to be who God has called us to be. Part of that authenticity, we said, is admitting our struggles. Because if there's anyone who's perfect in the room, I just want to tell you that you're wrong, that you're delusional, because none of us are perfect. And sometimes we have this image that when we come to church, we have to pretend to be perfect. You know, everyone has the perfect wife and the perfect kids and the perfect job and the perfect whatever. No, we want our church to be more like an emergency room where you come to seek help and specialists, and you know that other people are also broken and struggling like you're broken and struggling. We want to be honest. We want to be authentic. Paul, who wrote a big chunk of the New Testament, is really authentic with us in sharing his struggles. So look with me in 2 Corinthians. You'll see it on the screen. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, beginning in verse 7. Here Paul is saying, therefore, in order to keep me from becoming conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh. Kind of a strange phrase. We don't know what this thorn, we think of a thorn being on a rose stem, right? Something beautiful, but something prickly as well. What was this? A messenger of Satan, he says, to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weakness, so that Christ's power may rest on me. Turn to someone next to you and say, I'm weak. Right? We all are. It's all of our confession. If Paul can say this, we certainly need to. So that Christ's power may rest on me. So I am weak, but God is strong. Turn to someone else and say, God is strong. Right. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in my weakness. Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever delighted in your weakness? I haven't. That's hard for me. I don't like going around telling people, yeah, I really stink at this. Oh, yeah, I'm awful at that. Oh, yeah, I failed in this way. Yeah, I'm pretending here, but I'm really not good at that. That's hard for me. And here Paul's like, I just delight in my weakness. I imagine Paul dancing around going, I'm a loser. I can't do anything on my own. And yet he wrote a chunk of the New Testament. He was pretty powerful, right? And what a testimony. He was like super Christian. And yet delighting in his weakness, in insults, in hardship, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. What a strange contradiction. But what an amazing gift to realize that you don't have to do this life on your own. How exhausting. You know, when people tell me that they don't believe that there's a God, I usually say to them, oh, no, you do. You've just decided it's you, right? Because someone's ruling your universe, right? So if you decide you don't believe in the God of the universe, then that means you've decided you're God. How's that going? Do you feel like you have a lot of control over the weather, over your health, over the way other people act, over the way the world's going? You stopped any genocides lately? Corrected any floods? Because the God I serve has all the answers to all that and has all that right in God's hand. I don't want to be God. I would be a terrible one, a really awful God. So if you figured out how to be God on your universe, I wish you the best of luck, because it will end up in failure, right? Because we're weak. Thorn in my flesh. I love this expression because we don't really know what that means. Something he struggled with. And I think the Bible is purposely vague so that we might all imagine that Paul struggled in the same way we struggle. I think if it had listed it, some people would be tempted to say, well, that's not that bad. Come on, Paul, get over it. Or other people might be able to say, oh, gosh, I mean, that's the biggest thing in the world. It's a good thing I don't have to deal with that. No, it's purposely vague so we can somehow all imagine we're right in that story with Paul, that we also struggle. And again, why is admitting our struggle important? Because I don't know if you hear this voice, but I hear it a lot from Satan, who says to me, everybody else has their act figured out except you. No one struggles in this way except you. Everybody around you is perfect but you. And when we hear that voice, we're tempted to believe it. And yet when we get in a room with other Christians and we're able to say, man, I really struggle with this, to have the other people in the group go, yeah, me too. Yeah, I struggle with that. That's hard for me too. Then you're like, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not figuring this out without other people with me. They say that misery loves company. And I think it's true. When you're struggling, you want to know that other people are with you, that they're struggling with you. Or if they don't struggle in that way, they struggle in another way. And that they can be strong for you in one way and you can be strong for them in another. Why wouldn't God just take his sin away? Why do you think? Well, he said, it's so I won't be conceited. And I'm like, well, I can understand that because he had a lot to be conceited about. So I think God wouldn't take it away so that he would all the more have to depend on God. Otherwise, it would have been very easy for him to say, I don't need anything or anybody. I've got this whole thing figured out. But here we have Paul saying, I struggle. Being authentic also means that we know that our power only comes from God. He reminds us in this passage, he's like, I can't do anything on my own. When I'm weak, then God is strong. When I feel like I'm done, then that's when God steps in. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus gives us these statements, blessed are and blessed are. Sometimes we've heard them so much we forget what they mean. So I like looking in other translations. And one of the translations I really like is the Message, because Eugene Peterson sometimes comes at things in a different way. And so in Matthew 5:3, normally I memorized it as blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. But he rewords it in this way, you're blessed when you're at the end of your rope. With less of you, there is more of God and his rule. Think about that. When you're at the end of your rope, when you've realized I cannot figure this out, I cannot do it on my own, you're blessed. Because you realize that that's when God comes in and changes it all and gives you the ability to do it or changes the situation God comes in a way that we wouldn't have expected. Being authentic also means that it brings us closer together as Christians because we can let our guard down. There's this beautiful verse in Proverbs 27:17. It says, as iron sharpens iron, right? So one man or one person sharpens another. Think about that. We become dull. The world and being in the world makes us dull. And yet when we come together, we sharpen each other, we challenge each other, we lift each other up. We become better at what God has called us to do because we realize that others need us and we need others. We need that community. The last thing we need is another place where we have to pretend. Some of you have to pretend in your work or in your community or in your neighborhoods and social gatherings. My wife is a U.S. diplomat, and so throughout her career and all the places we've lived, we've gone to lots of events with lots of important people who are dressed up and look amazing in these amazing venues, but often the conversations are so shallow. Where have you traveled? What have you bought? Where are you going next? Where have you lived? It's all up here. And sometimes you have the people who are name dropping and pretending and, oh, I was just with the president and, oh, I was this and that and thing. And it's all this posturing, and pretending. And I think, gosh, what if this was the only kind of group? What if this was my only social gathering was to be with people who are all out trying to outdo each other. And then you come to church and it just feels so different because we can say what God is really doing in our life and how hard it has been. I think of a guy, when I think of the word authentic, I think of a good friend of mine, Jason. We were only in the same church for less than a year, but he became an immediate friend. He was very interested in small groups, and at that point in my life, I was leading a lot of small groups, and he and I led a group together about Jesus and how we imagine who Jesus is. We called it the mosaic of Jesus, all the little pieces that make up our idea of who God is. And we have remained in contact for years and years and years now, but every time I meet with him on Zoom, I'm so amazed at how authentic it is because he's an amazing guy, but he's been through difficult things. He was coaching university athletics in America, which is a big deal, and a huge university making a lot of money, but he negotiated that he wasn't going to have practices on a Sunday. So that is my day for God and my family. I'll work 60 hours during the week if I need to, but I'm not doing it on a Sunday. And that was what he negotiated as he came in. Well, there was, after he'd been there for a while, a change in management or leadership. And this new director person said, no, you are. This is what we have to do. This is the only way we'll win. This is the only way we'll get the competitive edge. And he said, but I've seen our team and I know our athlete, and they're not going to be any better by training 7 days a week. It's not how we're created. So he held his ground and ended up losing his job. Ended up giving up this massive, influential, well-paid position because he wanted to hold true to the values that guide his life. And now he's in a new career field and transitioning into this new area, getting a new degree, becoming a life coach, so that he can help other people really live life according to their values and who they are. And every time I meet with him, he has a word from God for me. It's like a prophet. It's unbelievable. Things he could never, ever know of himself. And I think it's because he's so connected to the Lord in that authenticity. And he challenges and calls me to be more authentically who God has called me to be. So as we think about what does this look like for our teams, our church, who we want to be, I want us to continue to remember that who we are becoming is more important than what we are doing. Who we are becoming is more important than what we're doing. So what that means on our team is if you're on a team with Phoebe in the children's ministry, I've asked Phoebe, when she checks in with those who are teaching in that area, to first and foremost say, how are you and how's your relationship with the Lord? It's not an, aha, I've got you. She's not quizzing you. What was the verse you kept from this week? How many hours did you pray? No, it's an, I want to know that you are growing in the Lord. And I want all of the people leading our teams to be asking you that. So that if you're on a team and suddenly you're like, I don't know what's happening. Suddenly they're asking me about my life and my marriage and my relationship with God. Good. That's what we want. Because if you're just filling in, if you're just greeting, if you're just teaching, if you're just singing, and no one's asking you about how you're doing with the Lord, then somehow we're saying, oh, just do your thing. When really the most important thing is who we're becoming. Who we're becoming. And so that means that being authentic on our team means that we want to know how you're doing. Being authentic in our church means we're going to encourage you to do things like read the Bible together. We said that earlier. Many of you joined us on that reading plan. You can still join us on that reading plan. Just jump in where we are. Don't even feel like you have to go back and catch up. You can do that later. Just jump in right on the next day. You can join us tomorrow, right? We're inviting you to pray with us. Now there's a prayer gathering every Sunday. We think it's going to meet in the nursery. We're trying it out for now with Samuel and other brothers and sisters who are gathering to pray each Sunday at 12:15. Opportunities. We've encouraged you to fast. There are things that you need to remove from your life. Maybe you need to fast from negative speech. Maybe you need to fast from social media for a while. That you might find that your Instagram account is dragging you down instead of up. Or that all the hate speech that you're finding on Facebook, maybe you're better without it. If you're going to stay on, however, follow our church. We'll have nothing but wonderful things for you. We promise. Right? We promise. And have you considered becoming a member of our team? Jump in and join the team. We have a membership class this coming Saturday. We would love to have you there. It's going to be downstairs right here, 9:45. Register for it with the link or go online. But we want you here because we want you on our team so that we can grow together. So what does this look like? Join our team in 2024. And learn how to spend more time with God, how to be empowered and grow, how to become more authentic. Authentically who God is calling you to be and created you to be. If you're not serving, if you haven't found a church home, then you aren't completely where God wants you to be, because that's how we're created. So I want to challenge you, find your fit, join our team.